In other news, leaders from across the fintech space convened in Las Vegas in October for Money 2020 USA, where they look to reimagine the future of money. One of these leaders was public CFO Shruti Lanka, who told J.D. Durkin about the impact her company is making across the marketplace and how it's helping retail investors. Take a listen.
Public is a truly multi-asset investing platform where you can trade fractionally not just in stocks and ETFs, but also fixed income products. You can trade fractional bonds, treasuries on Public, alongside crypto, alongside options and cash products. So really we give you the full suite with a set of AI tools that help make our customers better investors. Our most recent AI tool is called Generated Assets. You can go on generatedAssets.com and type in, give me a list of companies that went public in 2025. It'll give you a portfolio, back-tested against the S&P 500, and give you its performance, and then you can click buy.
I wonder, especially in this moment we're in, where the so-called speculative trade is so strong, I'd have to imagine a platform like Public, you're constantly deciding between which types of offerings to present to your platform base. How do you go about making those decisions, and ultimately, how do you separate noise from signal?
Our users, we find, have a view on what they want to invest in the markets. It's usually based on what they're hearing in the news, and most recently, it's really IPOs, right? Barring, of course, government shutdown, which hopefully gets resolved very soon. The IPO markets are popping, and that's top of mind for our customers. So now you can invest in IPOs on Public. We launched with the IPOs of Klarna and Figure. We saw that close to 15% of users who invested in one actually requested allocations in the other. So IPOs are top of mind for our customers, and that's among the most recent product launches that we're putting in front of them. But the short version to your question is, honestly, users have a strong feeling about what they want to invest in, and that's why we've built a truly multi-asset investing platform so people can choose their flavor.
What were the biggest challenges to offering allocation to IPOs? I feel like for the retail investor, for so many years, they watched the big splashy names finally enter the public markets, and they said, I cannot get a piece of that. And I know Public has really worked very hard to try and change that conversation. What were the biggest pain points, the challenges to making that a reality?
You're exactly right. I think the traditional narrative around retail is just incorrect, honestly. Traditionally, retail was seen as the highly volatile and smaller part of market volumes. But that's just no longer true. We've seen retail consistently be 25-30% of overall trade volumes, and we find that our users actually buy the dip. And this is probably a result of the fact that many retail investors felt like they lost out on the bull run post-financial crisis. And so through COVID, we saw this. Through the correction in 2022, we saw this. When the markets contracted, retail investors actually plowed money in. And so that's the behavior we see even on our IPOs. People stick by the companies they believe in. And so if they buy into an IPO in Public, 80% of the investors who bought into the Klarna and Figure IPOs are still holding their positions, despite the volatility.
Yeah, and that's amazing. Obviously, we just sort of celebrated the 3-year anniversary of the ongoing bull market. To your point about the interest rate pullback in 2022, what do you feel have been the biggest factors for the renewed interest across generations? It's millennials, you got younger first-time investors, older investors as well, for this renewed conversation in companies now finally, once again, going public.
I mean, the reality is retail investors, particularly digitally native retail investors, are coming into a lot of wealth. 100 trillion is changing hands. This number actually started out at 70, became 100, now 120 trillion. And that really is moving to these digitally native generations. And that's the users who are expressing interest in our IPO access product. It's mainly millennials and younger Gen X users. And so this is a demographic with significant capital to invest. And they want to share in an asset class that's performed really well for institutional investors over the last 20 years.
And outside of that particular asset class, are you seeing a generational interest in in cryptos and in zero-dated options. I mean, you name it, I feel as if the diversification of a rising investor base, which now is coming across itself, they're more liquid than they've been in the past, obviously, as they age up in the workforce. Are you seeing that interest to say it's not just the game of equities any longer? There are a lot of other financial products that we want in our portfolios?
That's exactly right. Talking about these IPO investors, the same investors, they hold 30% in crypto, 10% in bonds, 10% in cash products. If you think about the overall portfolio, a public user is naturally multi-asset because of the investing experience I described. And really, they tend to have a more long-term investment horizon, right? Our users are on the more affluent end. So they're interested in capital protection in addition to capital growth, which is why you see fixed income products. So it's truly a diversified portfolio that they hold, along with some single stock positions as well, and usually some hedges against it.
Yeah, I'd imagine there's at least a little bit of enthusiasm in the mega cap tech stocks specifically.
Yes.
People always want a piece of that action. And what a great week to do this interview ahead of a lot of big earnings reports for those names. What more needs to be done to level the playing field between the old school institutional investor and the everyday retail investor who is now looking at the type of suites, the suite of products in financial services and saying, I want a piece of that as well?
That's an excellent question, and one that we're looking to answer exactly, right? So why we built Public is really to put the greatest fundamental investing toolkit in investors' pockets. So you talked about upcoming earnings, right? If you go on the Public app, we're embedding AI into the experience to make our customers better investors. And one example of that is you can use Alpha, which is our AI-based research assistant, to summarize earnings calls. We'll give you the highest bullet. You can pull down on any stock and say, why did this stock move? And if it's Tesla, we pull up one level deeper of insights. Instead of saying, oh, revenues were up or down, we say, they met or failed their vehicle delivery targets, which is really what the stock moves on, right? And so how do you get to those operating fundamentals that move stocks? That really is the answer that we're providing to our retail.
Yeah.